GWorld7_D at it again. Now, I have mentioned in previous posts about the black history of black people who are already here, black Europeans. Now, I showed you before David McRitchie's. I showed both of them, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Ancient Modern Britons. I showed Nature, No Color Line. I think I mentioned Sexual Races by J. Rogers, both of them, the last two by J. Rogers. Now, I showed Lee Cummings before. Here's another book by Lee Cummings in this chapter of his books, The Negro Question, Part 6, The 13 Black Colonies, talking about here. But I want to emphasize certain things. I'm going to go page 87. All right? I'm going to pick out a few things I'm going to read and try to prove my point. All right, now I'm going to go... I read what Benjamin Franklin said before about the various different blacks over in Europe, but I wanted to start right here. Okay, if I can pick it up. Right here, a clear image. By the year 1751, the black Scots, Britons, and black Irish have been deported into Barbados, Americas, West Indies, Jamaica, or beyond the sea. What was the after effect of the deportation of the black Scots? Once the children of the three kingdoms were deported, the whites assumed their names, royal titles, lands, and most importantly, their history. All right? They stole their history. I mentioned that before. And he goes on, this is the seed of the white barbarians that caused the collapse of the western leg of the Roman Empire. I mentioned that before. This is the seed of whites and barbarians that were chased out of Central Asia by Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan. All right? Genghis Khan, excuse me. Now, I'm going to go on and read some more, all right? And let me pick this part right here. I'm going to read right here, all right? Anyway, get a clear image. Clear. Let's see. There was already a free population of blacks in the colonies from the very beginning. There were the offspring of the black founding fathers. Colonial history must be adjusted to show that the black Scots were the original founders. There has to be an adjustment of British involvement in the North Atlantic slave trade. It has to be divided by the reigns of the black Stuart kings and the black German handover kings, the Georges. I'm going to get a clear image. Try to get a clear image. Right here. I'm going to read it. The black Stuart kings were not involved in the North Atlantic slave trade per the original charter. On the other hand, the black German handover kings broke the charters and legalized slavery. The timeline for the slave trade in the British colony has to be readjusted to 1752, Georgia 1763, Florida acquisition, and finally 1803 Louisiana acquisition. All right. And I'm going to go on in this side and read this, show you this. A huge percentage of the black Scots got absorbed into the black Indian population. The whites exterminated the indigenous Indians along with the black Scots, and the history of the black Scots got merged together with the history of the black slaves in South. Okay, and then he goes on to say, we were taught in the government-sponsored school system that the runaway slaves sought refuge among the Indians, but they never taught us that the Indians were black. All right? And here's, if you can see, images of blacks in ancient America. I'm going to say this is the Virginia, and down here is, I'm going to say this is Virginia. All right? Look at it. There's images on this on Pinterest or whatever it is. You can see color images of this. And he always dressed the people like Ethiopia. And you notice they're wearing different caps too, feathers. the hat here. And the guy who came on my page said that the black Americans, Aboriginal blacks, Indians did not wear that particular cap. Those are black Europeans. That's not true, because you see them wearing it here. He knows these people have woolly hair. The black people here had woolly hair and wavy to straight hair. Our hair textures are very different, types of different hair texture. These black people here, and there's a larger image of this, and it's in color. I have it, but I gotta find it. All right. Man. All right. Now I'm gonna go on. Now, here's. See, it talks about, they show you very different images of the black Indians out here. The Frugayan cap, and then the crown. Seeing with their different crowns on their head, royalty crowns. Now, it talks about I'm gonna read it right here. The Indians wore very different type of crowns on their head. All right. The imagery suggests that the Indians wearing the crown, Roman clothing, in the Frugayan cap, having more advanced civilization than the Indian on the right. The Indian on the right is wearing a skull in his headdress, which violates the statue of God. That's what he says in his book. All right. But my emphasis is that you see very different black people here wearing different type of crowns on their head. So it wasn't unusual. This is in his book. All right. Remember I mentioned that you see that type of hat, crown or hat that brothers and sisters wore here in America, and they wore that in Europe too. And here they also had this in America with the feather right here on top, and this one the crown. All right. And you see this brother right here. You can see this in the Virginia Historical Society. All right. And this is the image of an Indian during the time of Powhatan and Pocahontas period. All right. The feathers on his head. This is Virginia. There's a big ass large statue of this brother. All right. Now here's some Negroes out of the Florida area. Images of black people in the Florida area. I got a better picture of this one right here. This right here. I have a better image of it in one of my books. I gotta find which book it was, but it's one of my books. So the original blacks, see, obviously these are not African slaves. You see them wearing crowns on their head. You see people standing, bowing down to them, and you see them they looked upon as being royalty. These are not slaves from no damn West Africa. You gotta get that out of your head, man. And we're being taught that so much, and so many of these Negroes on YouTube keep pushing that lie. Like I said, I studied this for years, man. I know you had the Aboriginal black population already here. You had black Asians who came over here, as well as you had black Europeans to come over here. There's so many different groups of black people that came to the Americas and built, and we fought, even warred amongst each other. But to just say that we came from West African slaves and you still had these Negroes passing off like that, man, it tells you that not only have not done no damn research, but it's a deep level of self-hatred, because they cannot believe that so-called black people build great structures and great civilizations globally. Some of these Negroes can't fathom that. And this is sad and it's really sick. And I'm tired of it, man. I'm really tired of this stuff. It's too much information out here. But some of these Negroes are very lazy in their research. Now these are images of Indians in Louisiana. And I'm going to read this right here. He says, you cannot tell the difference between these black Indian women, the so-called Negro, or the blacks from the original 13 colonies. Once the original Scots founded the land, they began to populate the Americas, and thus you would have black Scots who became Indians by birth. All right, and these are these black Indian women in Louisiana. And look at these damn black folks. The first thing is one of these little Negro scholars would sit there and tell you that they just some damn descendants of black slaves. These are Aboriginal black people here in North America. And we come in various different types of features, man. I mentioned before that I seen a brother on 87th Street on Stony Island when I was driving around, and he looked like a 6'4". He was 6'4", and he looked like his facial features and his hair type was like that of a Khoisan black person you see in Central and Southern Africa. But he was tall, and they're generally short. He was tall, and he had that yellowish skin complexion, the same eyes that they had, the same hair type, but he was tall. The black population, you really have to notice, and I've been noticing this, man, for years. I looked at lots of times, I basically look at the features of brothers and sisters. And there's so many, our features vary because we are a mixture of various different black tribes, not only here, but black people from other lands, from their various different tribes. So I just don't understand why so many brothers and sisters don't get this. We're too busy just trying to think, or we're not thinking outside of the box. We're taught and trained to think within the box, not to think freely outside of the box and to come to our own conclusions. And we need to start doing that. This stuff is so obvious. It's in your face, man. This stuff is so much in your face. Your history is so much in your face. We were already here. And so I'm building up. The reason I'm emphasizing this, because I'm building up, talking about Takao, Kopan, the black civilizations that were already here, the structures that were built, the great gardens, the great causeway, the great stair pyramids, or we call the pyramids that stack up like before they were smoothing out. We built great structures globally, and some of these doggone monuments that we built here, obviously now they buried under the sea level due to the fact of the end of the ice age, with those ice sheets melting, causing the waters, the riverbed, to rise up. So that's why a lot of stuff is underwater. But to finish off what I'm just saying, man, is the fact is that it's in this book. All right, it's in this book. This is a good book. He has a whole series of this book, Brother Lee Cummings. All right, our history is global, and we're not just confined to being African slaves from West Africa. We got to, like I said, we got to stop there. I keep emphasizing this. I'm going to continue to harp on this, man. We've been here. This is our history. This is our culture. This is our land. We must take back every damn thing of our history. Everything, particularly in Americas, man. We had great history. Our greatest history in the world was here in Americas, but it's been buried. I'm telling you, you have to study your history. It's there in your face. It's there in your face. So I'm going to stop right there, but I just want to highlight this brother's book talking about the Black Scots, and I emphasize the Black Scots, or the black people from the British Isles, before, with David McRitchie's 2-volume book, Ancient Modern Britons, as well as Nation of Those Color Line, when I showed you pictures from J.A. Rogers, and I mentioned a little bit from Sex and Race, 3 volumes from J.A. Rogers. This is information that we need. There's so much source. There's more than that too. There's other sources that I have on that issue, talking about the original black people of Europe. I had one Negro come and attack me, stating that the original people of Europe were white folks, or Negroes were there, then white folks came, and then Negroes came back again with the Moors. Really, man, it's just this is so funny, and but it's so sick how some of us think. I showed you images of black people in a castle, defending the castle from the barbarian people. The original people were so-called black people, and all those so-called English names originated with Negroes. Alright? It originated with Negroes. So you do not have a slave last name from a white person. You actually have the name of someone black. Alright? The original black nobility, or the original black group of people from Europe. those people, those names, these English names, and I showed you in that book, Nation on Those Color Line, that originated with so-called black people. I mentioned before that the white folks did not have last names. Hell, many of them did not even have first names. Many of them were crawling fours on their damn knees. Hairy, they did not shave, they did not bathe. We taught them all that. So I'm telling you this now. So when we start talking about our black history here in Americas and in Europe, we're not, quote, running away from so-called Africa. No, we're talking about our history in other lands. And we are a global people, but we as Aboriginal black people here in America, we are a descendant of the original blacks here. We are descendants of them here. And many of you don't want to hear that. You're going to hear it from me. I've done too much studying this, man. It's in your face. These names, they just change the names of these damn places taking one letter out, change it with another letter. It's so obvious. It's in your face. But you got to want to have an open mind to study and learn this. You have to do that. You have to have the open mind. Because we have been taught to be closed-minded on our history and think that the only way possible we can get here is on the bottom of a cargo ship. Man, that's sick. But that's how so many of our so-called intellectuals and so-called educated class thinks. This is how sick some of these Negroes are. And it's frustrating because the information's there. Learn your goddamn history, man. It is yours to take. It is yours to keep. Learn it, keep it, take pride in it. This brother's G World, man. I'm out.